Hello friends and welcome to another workshop on ScandiPWA. Today we will talk with you developers, and I'm planning to speak about styling and the best practices while styling. So we'll talk a little bit about BAM, we'll talk a little bit about CSS custom properties, and we will take a look at the best practices implementing them. So let's begin by opening up our theme in the favorite editor. So for me it's VS Code. So let's get inside and let's go to the application. No, let's go to source. So let's take the source as an example. So first, you need to remember that nesting classes is bad idea. And if you have an option to nest the class name instead of classes, you would have much more efficient and performant front end. So let's take a look, for example, on some element like expandable content, an example. Yeah, so you can see that the expandable content is declared as a single class at the top of the style CSS, and there are no other declarations of classes in this document. So the first rule you need to remember is that if you have a style, so there must be only one class declaration per file. So you must have only one class declared in the SCSS file. So what this means is that if you want to find any element styles, you're just searching by this class name. And if I want to find the expandable content class element style, I'm just searching by file name and I immediately will find the .style SCSS. So this is an important thing to remember. So if I'm searching for the class name like expandable content, I will immediately find the style. This is important. So now, if we understood that there should be only one class declaration per CSS file, but how can we achieve it? Let's quickly take a look. So here we have the class declaration, and then we have this ampersand dash button, and then we also have this dash heading, dash content, and then underscore is content expanded. Well, what all of those punctuation signs mean? But let's switch back a little and take another colored marker to explain it. Well, if you write dot class name, if you do it like this, and then you open up your brackets, here inside you will have the context, and the current context will be dot class name, the whole part. So if I write dash dash, and then I say class name element, and I open this up, then here, then this part, it will be combined together, and now it will be class name, and then dash, and then element. And then if you have the context here, you can add dash, and now underscore, for example, is good for a quick run measure. And now here, if you combine them all together, you will have class name dash element underscore is good. So you can nest the class names, so the selectors, instead of, you can nest the names of the classes instead of nesting the selectors, because another approach very common and in my opinion very poor is then when you have the class name which opens up where you have dot element and where you have dot is good. And if you consider this, you have 3 element nesting, which is very hard to override And if it's hard to override, then it's also hard to render, because when you're painting, you're first painting the upper level, then second, then third. So it's 3 repaints needed. Try to keep your element styles as so try to keep the nesting of styles as low as possible. So if it is possible to write all your styles using the context signs, well, do it. So let me quickly erase it and write down the second rule. So the second rule for styles will be to use the class nesting. So use prefer nesting class names. And by nesting I mean concatenating. Good. But is there any specific approach on how to do it? Well, if we take a closer example here, we can see that, well, is content expanded uses underscore, and subheading uses the dash. So what's the difference and where to use what? So let me explain. This paradigm, this approach is known as BEM, or block elements modifier, where the block is your class name. So this class name, which we have here, class name, this is the block. And because we want it to be to resemble the React component, we name it using the camel case. So class with the uppercase and name with the uppercase. So each word with its own capital letters. So this is the block, and inside of this block, it's a root element of the component. So inside of this block, you will have other elements. So those elements are separated by dashes. So if you write and dash, and here you can write element, so this is an element because it's separated by dash. So it's an element. And then if your element or your block can be modified or could be in some state which requires different styling, well, here you have an option to add the and underscore and then the modifier. So let me see the modifier. And the modifier should start with a small letter, because it's not an element, it's just a state name. But the element and block starts with a capital letter. Remember this. So modifier, there are 2 types of them. There are, first, let's write here, there is a Boolean modifier, and the Boolean modifier should start with is, like is hovered, for example. And then there is so-called mixed modifiers, and the mixed modifiers could be like, and here starts with underscore, so blah 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 underscore. Here the same underscore, but now color, for example, and then you say error. So this element has a color of error, that has a modifier with a color of type color with a value of error. And then you can have multiple styles. So this mixed is used to say, for example, then we have also a color green, or let's say success. But note why I said that green color is a bad example here. So color success is good, color green is bad. Well, because the modifier shouldn't resemble the property of CSS which you put, if of course you're not meant to modify it using this. So the colors and the modifiers should be pretty abstract. So if you say color success, it could resemble the green color underneath or some specific text decorations. But if you say that color green, you're limiting yourself, so you shouldn't be doing this, because class names are not style values. Okay guys, so with that we have another rule which we need to add to our rule list, yeah? And this is use BEM. So follow the BEM methodology. To understand more about BEM, go to website, which I will showcase you in a moment. So follow BEM methodology. Cool. And the website you should visit is go to your favorite browser and write get BAM. And now here you will open the file, the site, and here you will be able to get your introduction into BAM, see what companies are using it, and also there is an option to go into naming and pretty much get the idea about how this works. And if you want some more information about more specific details on BAM, go to docs.scandipwa.com and open the BAM part of our documentation, where we'll tell you more details and what to expect and how to use it in JavaScript. So as you may see here, there are specific declarations here which help you to build those class names. Because it's sometimes inconvenient to write them all. Very good, very good. So this covers the 3 main things. Now let's move to less organizational stuff, to more functional. And here you may see that we have this expandable content declared and expandable content divider color declared. Well, you may say we can use the SAS variables here. And the SAS variables, if you don't know, they are variables which can be used like this. So this is the SAS variable. And they are amazing and they are really neat. But what we're trying to achieve is maximum customization ability. So later on, we might have the no-code editor, and if we would have it, it would be neat if we could change the color of any part of our application, what we will try to achieve. So this approach, where we're first initializing the variables on the root element, and the root element could be any, it could be the SVG if we are talking in the context of SVG, it could be the HTML if we're talking in the context of documents. So on this element of the root element, you are declaring the custom variables which you will be using later on, like we do here: expandable content color, expandable content divider color. Note, guys, those variables should be unique throughout the application, so I encourage you to use context specific names like expandable content, what color. So the expandable content is an element where it is used, and the color is what it is used for. Okay, so then we have the usage of it. You can see here, and here, and then in cases where we need to change this expandable content color or divider color in specific contexts, like in filters, in filter overlay in ScandiPWA, we have a little bit different color of those dividers. So in this specific place, we can change it in the context, because those CSS custom variables, they are passed through the from the top element to the child ones. So you can inherit those styles, and each element inherits them from a parent. So if you override them on the path from the root element to the element itself where it is used, then you can get the different appearance of the element in a different context. So this is another crucial example. So let's write it down to our board of recommendations here. I hope we'll have some place more. So use CSS custom variables. So now, when we are using only one class per CSS file, when we are preferring to nest class names and to not nest the selectors, let's remove this nesting at all. Let's call this concatenating class names. If we follow BAM methodology, if we use the CSS custom properties, what else should we remember to do? Well, remember not to write the vendor prefixes, because we're using auto prefixer and custom browser specific prefixes are not required, so you may skip it. So let's also write this down, but now I see we don't have too much place for it. I can try writing it down here. Let's try. If it will be reflective enough, I will erase this down and write on top. So 5 is don't don't write vendor prefixes. Cool. So we're not writing vendor prefixes. What else shouldn't we do? Hope it's a little bit more visible. Yeah. So another thing you guys need to remember is that the syntax should be correct. So prefer nesting and putting your tabs correctly, and use the style lint. So we have this style lint enabled, and I have a specific video on how to set it up. So please follow the style lint and make sure it works for you, so your styles and your declarations will be very consistent. So here, let's add that you should use, so use style lint. So use style lint. This is important. Be consistent. Make sure your code is beautiful and easy to read. Okay, and now another thing you might notice is that we're using rams very oftenly instead of pixels. So why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want our styles to be relative to the text which is written inside of them, and not all elements are using rams to make a padding or to make a margin around them, but some are, and some, I mean most, who are related to the content. Those who are related to the graphics, like logo size, etc., and header height, those are declared in pixels because those are related to the graphics. Where we're speaking about the content, we're speaking about some buttons, we are using rams. So remember, for content specific elements, for content and not graphic specific elements, we are using ram. Let's write it down here in the 7s. Prefer RAM for content elements. Next, number 8. Do we have anything else to add? I hope this is at least seen a little bit. Yeah, let's switch back, and now here we can see that we have no default values, which is also important, because I know many developers are like to copy styles from multiple places. So I encourage you not to copy the default styles. Keep in mind that this will overcomplicate the render, and keep your styles as simple as possible. We won't write this down. This is just a reminder for you guys. So if you know what is your default. So don't reset something if you are unsure if you want it to be reset. Yeah, and so know your default, and don't write the default CSS properties. A different thing is, you can notice we have this mixins, and we have a lot of mixins, since in fact we have mixins for all the media. For some cases, if you want iPhone specific or not iPhone specific, we have a little bit more interesting stuff. So explore the abstract folder and try to make sure you're using it on its maximum. So before starting to work on this project, please go ahead into the abstract folder, style, abstract, and from here try going through to understand what values do we have already available to you in your styles. So for example, you can use those values as they are the variables inside of in every file. See this, that we have some different additional helpers, the mixins, which I just talked you through, the loader. Do you know what this is? This is an interesting thing. So use this for elements you don't want to render, but you would like to extend. So in SAS you can extend. This is how you do it properly. So declare element you want to extend in this manner. The icons. While there are a lot of icons available in ScandiPWA, and as you may see, they all are CSS based. There are button mixins, And that's pretty much it. So if you have some more things you wish to use on your everyday basis, well, feel free to add this into abstract, and make sure to watch this video to understand how to do it. So the 8th thing we will write down here is to know the default and utilities. So you must remember to know your default values and utilities. And for default values, guys, this is very important. Please take a look. We have this reset.scss, and if you take a very close look, it is a very complicated reset on every file. Well, the position, the margin, the padding, and everything is different from default. The position is relative, remember this, and the box sizing is border box. So by doing this, we're ensuring that the padding is included into the width of the element. So please remember this, and this is our default, and make sure you are styling accordingly. So don't be surprised if your styles doesn't work. Make sure you're familiar with the default values. And then we have resets for multiple stuff, and the most inconvenient, and currently what we have and we plan to change this, is this lead element, because basically list elements are not styled by default. You can see we're removing these styles. We're also adding the last child styles to them. Not as amazing as it could be. So this could be painful a little bit. But overall, it's pretty clean, it's pretty great and understandable. So guys, with this list of guides for you to write your styles properly, I hope you will now have much more clearer and efficient applications. With that, I'm happy to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next best practices videos in this series. Bye.